Oh yeah, now it's going live because I see it on my phone.
All right. Welcome to the second episode of Speed Kills a Podcast.
Two.
I'm one of your hosts, DeLon Leggett, along with my co-host Marcus Jones and Authur Hoffman. We'd like to send a shout out to everybody who subscribed to Speed Kills a Podcast, to everybody who watched the video, for everyone who just gave us love for the last episode. Remember, this is for you. We're doing this for our love of speed. We're doing this for our love of sports. We're also going to do it to highlight everybody that's been involved in sports in any way, either as an athlete, as a coach, as a fan. We'd like to just bring everybody on and get people excited about sports, especially during this time where not a lot of sports are going on, and talk about what we love. So that's what we'll be doing. And our second guest for today will be Authur Hoffman. With that, Marcus, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, like DeLon said, thank y'all for subscribing. Thank you for showing the love. Just watching. I loved it. I enjoyed the feedback we got. But as we get into this episode, I said we're going to try to get bigger and better from here. But before we start off with Mr. Hoffman, we're going to talk about the West Coast Turkey Bowl Championships that's coming up November 14th and 15th. Definitely register your teams because we're filling up fast. So right now, last time I talked to Mario, I think we're at 91 teams. So, I mean, we're filling up very fast. It's going to be an exciting tournament. Definitely come out, support us, show us some love. And now that is out the way, we're going to start getting to Mr. Hoffman. And I'm going to run to his background a little bit, give you a little bit about Mr. Hoffman. He grew up in Southern California, where he lived and went to Chatsworth until, was that Chatsworth?
Chatsworth, yeah.
Chatsworth until he was 10 years old, and then moved there to Moore Park and attended Moore Park High School until he was 18 years old. Went on to Moore Park High School where he played basketball, ran track, and played football. Was a wide receiver, a free safety, and a corner. Basketball was he was a sixth man that primarily focused on shutting down the star point guard on the other team or on defense. In track, he ran the 1, the 2, the 400, and he did the high jump, the long jump, and was on the 4x1. After that, he went off to Colorado State University, where he walked on as a freshman and earned a scholarship as a wide receiver. His junior and senior year. He then moved from there to Arizona in January of 1999. And then from there, he's been here ever since. And he was financial advisor for 21 before selling his practice and doing what he's doing now. So, Mr. Hoffman, thank you for being on the show, and thank you for showing us some love.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for doing this partnership, and all of us to get together and hopefully bring some light to a bunch of different sports out there. Like you were saying, DeLon, earlier, this is an opportunity for everybody to have a chance to go out and talk sports at the very least, because we can't be playing them, so to speak. So here we are. Let's do this.
And, all right, what people don't know about you that I know about you, you was a child actor. So please elaborate on that. Please tell us about that.
I will elaborate on that. So for those of you that don't know me, I will give you a brief history. When I was about 10 years old, I started doing some modeling, and my mom was very much it at the time, and she said, you could do some modeling, that's it, because I kept telling her I could do acting, and she's like, nope, modeling only. I said, fine. After about 2.5 years of modeling, between the ages of 10 and 12, I modeled for basically everybody, Miller's Outpost, JCPenney's, you name it, every company that's out there. I was in the Sunday circulars doing, underwear ads, you name it. I did it all, okay? Yeah, literally, I'm not joking. I was missing probably 3 to 5 days a week of school just doing modeling shoots. So by the time I was 12 years old, my mom said, fine, you can do some commercials. I said, great. About 3 months later, I got a High C commercial, then I got a McDonald's commercial, then I got a JCPenney's commercial, and she's like, okay, fine, you can do sitcoms. And I'm like, okay, and then it started with Knots Landing, little small part of Knots Landing. It was literally one line, and then I went from there to things like Family Ties, Wonder Years, you name it. My claim to fame was that I was Winnie Cooper's boyfriend on the Wonder Years for a few episodes. I was the guy that took her away from Kevin on the series. Wow. So if you're familiar with the series, it was Heartbreak 1 and Heartbreak 2. I was also in an episode called Losers, where I was picking basketball players in a team. It was the episode where Kevin was a captain, and he picked all the losers, and that's why they called it Losers. So I was one of the other captains in the squad. But yeah, my claim name is I was Winnie Cooper's boyfriend on the Wonder Years. Hey, Danica, nice to see you. Hope you watch this at some point in time. So there you go. Yeah, that was
Oh,
me. That was my childhood.
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, so let's get into it. No, also before we start, we're gonna talk about the Proving Grounds. The Proving Grounds is 5-on-5 non-contact flag football at the Kroc Center off of 13th Street and Broadway, put on by Taberi Johnson. I mean, and Taberi's doing a good job. I've been out there once. The energy out there was great. Definitely. He got a new season
New
coming
season
up.
coming up, yeah.
Yes, in
September
September.
September
September.
19th through October 17th.
Yes. So please, sign up, get your teams out there, go and get some of that energy that they're giving out there. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. So please show to Barry some love and show up for the Proving Grounds. So as we get into it, let's get into it, Mr. Hoffman. So Art, tell me about growing up. Tell me how was it growing up in Southern California. Tell me how it was.
So outside of the acting, which was not all glitz and glamour, let's just put it that way. Outside of the acting, growing up, I started in Chatsworth. My parents lived there for about 10 years, and then they decided that they wanted to build a house over in Moore Park, which is about 45 minutes northwest of LA, for those of you that may or may not be familiar with that. My dad and mom bought 20 acres of avocados in the middle of basically farmland, and they decided to build a house on it. My dad wanted a 10,000 square foot house. My mom said, hell no. So we ended up with a 5,500 square foot house. That was way too big for all of us. There was only 4 of us living in the house, but we affectionately like to call it Hoffman Hotel because between the time that as far back as I can remember until when I moved out at 18 and went off to college, we had 21 people that had lived with us at some point in
Wow.
time. So we did call it Hoffman Hotel. There was plenty of room. Everybody was welcome, and people came and go as they pleased and as they needed to. And my parents were awesome to keep kind of an open door to help out people, to bring people together, and then also provide an environment where people could just feel safe and comfortable. So my parents did a great job of that. My dad grew up doing a lot of legal work for a company out in California on the government side of things. And then my mom was in the mortgage industry for years. She was a mortgage processor, did that. I have one brother. His name's James. He's older than me. I always joked with him because I felt like I got the short end of the stick when it came to genetics. He's 6'3", about 230 pounds. Well, depends on how much he's eaten in the last 6 months. But when we were in high school, he was about 6'3" and about 185 pounds. And I always used to get so mad because I was 5'10", 3/4, and soaking wet. I was maybe 155, and I could run fast, I could do things, and I had a lot of heart. But man, if I had his size and ability, or his size and build, who knows? But that's neither here nor there. But I always give him a hard time about it, and he and I spent a lot of time beating each other up as kids. Let's just put it that way.
But that's actually great because, like, for me, I didn't have a brother growing up, so I didn't have nobody that I can pick on like that. I had my sisters, but she tried to toughen me up. But just having that brother, growing up, how did that feel? I mean, just to have that competitiveness in the house.
He and I competed in a lot of aspects, just in general. He always beat me in the wits, as I like to call it. He's a very smart guy. He knows his stuff. Now, applying that is a whole different story, and he'll tell you. I tell him that all the time. But he's a very smart individual. He knows his stuff, and he used to challenge me. And my dad used to do the same thing. My dad and I used to actually play chess a lot because when where we lived, I was a good 5-6 miles walking from any of my friends in most cases, and majority of the time I'd just be stuck at home. And my dad and I started playing chess. And I'll tell you a quick story. It was funny. The first time I ever beat my dad, like legitimately beat my dad playing chess, he looks at me and goes, "I let you win." I said, "No, you didn't." So it was those kind of situations that added a lot to it. But I will tell you that it wasn't just my brother growing up that was a brother of mine. I had tons of friends and tons of people with that all became part of the family. So that being said, I mean, it was nice having an older brother, and it was good to be picked on because it definitely made you feel like, hey, you got to do something good in the grand scheme of things. So he kept me a little.
Oh man, that's great. No, I love hearing it. And just getting into it still. So, like, describe to me what got you into sports. No, what led you to playing sports growing up.
My competitive nature. I wanted to be the best at everything that I did. I didn't care what it was. I wanted to be the first one in line at school. I wanted to be the kid on the playground that beat the older kids racing. I was constantly just going, and honestly, I look back at it now and I go, I probably had ADD and I didn't realize it because I was Energizer Bunny, man. I would go a million miles a minute, and I always wanted to be the best at anything that I did. And it's funny because I see that in my 9-year-old now. He's exactly like me. It doesn't matter what he does. He's hyper competitive at it. Always wants to do, be the best, act the best, be in the front of the line, first one to do something, and it's awesome. It's a great drive and competitive advantage, but that's what got me into sports, and sports is a natural outlet for that to happen with.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, so once again, so what sports did you play, Art, growing up? What was your main sports that you loved the most? No, what were they?
Yeah, so I started early playing baseball. My dad played baseball when he was in high school and otherwise, and as time went on, I got into things like basketball and football. I will tell you, I didn't pick up basketball. I literally didn't pick up a basketball for the first time until I was a sophomore in high school. And then really because I just loved playing defense, that's how I ended up being the sixth man and just, coming in to shut down point guards and, shut guys down on defense. And I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I had more points on steals and fast breaks than I did on anything else. And then when I got into high school as well, that was the first time that I played tackle football. I hadn't played a down of tackle football until I was a freshman in high school. And again, I think ignorantly, I just kind of went into it with, I'm fast. I know I can outrun guys, and I kind of had a motto that my dad and I kind of came up with for years. It's you can't hit what you can't catch. So I ran fast. I didn't care how big I was. I ran fast, and if you couldn't catch me, then you weren't going to hit me. So that was my big thing, is doing that. But I played for about a split second. I did wrestling as a freshman in high school, and then just stuck with football, stuck with basketball through high school, and then I picked up track going into the end of my freshman year of high school. I ran a little bit as a kid. Earlier than that, my brother was competing in track when I was young, 8, 9 years old. And his squad used to get ticked off because I'd come to his practices and they'd be running their drills and I'd be running faster than the kids that were 2 years older than me. And the coach is like, "You ever thought of running track?" I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. Just let me run. Just let me run, man." So, but by the time I got to high school, I'm like, "Okay, I can see the application here. I see what this could do for me." So that's when I started taking it more seriously.
That's cool. That's cool. Because I think that's for a lot of small guys, as myself. We got that frail body. When you say run fast, that was my whole outlet. Is as soon as I touched the ball, I wanted to make sure that nobody hit me. Because I didn't like getting hit. I'm sorry. I just didn't like getting hit. I thought, when you play football, the part of the game is, not to get hit. So I know some people like that collision. No, I didn't like that collision. I'd rather fake you out your shoes than try to run you over. So that was just me.
Same way. Way.
So
I think that taste of speed is pretty important. Once you get that first taste of speed and being fast, you never want to stop running. You want to win.
Yep.
You want to run fast. You like to win. You like the feel of it. And I think that becomes pretty important, especially when it comes to sports. Once you realize you can outrun somebody, you want to keep doing it. You want to keep doing it over and over again. It just takes a hold of you.
Well, having an older brother too, I was chasing the older kids around all my life, and they were always trying to ditch me. They were trying to get rid of me. They were trying to do bike races, you name it. So I felt like my whole life, all I was doing was trying to outrun or just keep up in that vein. So
yeah. No, I think that is with an older brother because, like with my sister, like my mom, like, "Oh, take your brother with you," and she's like, "No." So no, they'll take off running. So I couldn't stay with them. So I definitely know where you're coming from that. So when did you feel like you became committed to the sport? Any sport you did. When was you committed?
So let me back up a little bit. Again, I was doing acting all the way up through high school. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I had committed at that point. You know what? I only get to go through high school once. And I want to play football for sure. I don't know what other sports I want to play, but I definitely want to play football. And I told my agent at the time, I said, hey, during football season, I'm not going to go out on interviews. She's like, that's prime interview season. You can't do that to me. She's like, you're a hot commodity right now. I mean, I was interviewing for all kinds of shows that, 90210s of the world and things like that at the time. And I was up for a lot of the parts. It was me and one or two kids left in a lot of these interviews. And my agent was very disappointed with me. Let's just put it that way. Because I told her I am not going out on interviews basically from August until about December. And she's like, you're killing me. So that was my big commitment, was when I got to high school and I knew that I wanted to play football. And I figured, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to commit to it and give it all that I got, because I can't come back and do it again. So that's when I committed, was at that time.
Gave it
Okay.
all up, huh? Gave up the acting, put it behind, and
I didn't give it up. I just put it
okay.
on pause. I put a pin in it. And I said, after that's done, because some of my biggest roles that I got were during my sophomore year of high school. And I actually missed about half of my sophomore football season because I was cast as a lead character in a movie. And it was a movie called Ghost Ship. If you guys ever want to go look it up, it's basically a ripoff of Goonies, but go for it. It's a fun one. You can find it out there. I got copies too, DVDs. If you guys want DVD copies. Uh, so I missed half of my sophomore season playing football because I was out in the desert filming that stinking movie. And I remember coming back. I played the first 2 games of the season. I came back 6 weeks later, played the last 2 games of the season. And I remember saying, I'm not doing this again. I just want to play football during football season, and that's it. So it was really an aha moment. I'm like, I love the movie thing. Don't get me wrong, but I really want to do this football thing while I can.
So how did your coaches feel about, you gone
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks, then you come back, and then you gone for another couple of weeks? How did they feel about that? Did
Right.
they
And
talk to you
before you
about it?
answer that, let me
Yeah.
add this on. First of all, were you a starter on the team at that time? Because if you're not a starter, coaches
Yes.
may not care. Oh, you're leaving? Okay, I'll see you when you get back. But if you're starting, that's a whole different situation. And I think that's something that people kind of look at even now when you got another commitment and you got the sports
Yeah.
commitment going on. What do you do? So what went through your mind to make that decision?
Well, it was one of those things over the summer. I was interviewing for the role, and I didn't know if I was going to get it. And then when I got it, and I came back my sophomore year, my freshman year, I wasn't a starter. I was, a backup. I played here and there, kind of thing. It wasn't really that big of a deal. But again, I committed to it and said I'm going to do this. And coming into my sophomore year, I got the starting cornerback position, for the sophomore team. And then I was also really prevalent on special teams. I was, like I was the wingman that came in and blocked punts and things like that. So they knew that I had enough speed to get there, and I did it a bunch during practices and whatnot, and 2-a-days, you name it. And long story short, when I left, they were a little ticked. Don't get me wrong, but they welcomed me back with open arms, and they told me the first game that I came back, that I wasn't allowed to play cornerback because the other kid had been playing the whole time, which rightfully so. He should have been there, doing his thing. So they said you can go in on punt block, and I'm like, okay. So first punt block I was in on, the game back, I ended up blocking a punt, and I didn't return it for a 6, but I blocked it and fell on it. That was my thing. So,
Make a name for
but
yourself.
then after that. Yeah, but then after that, I told him that I wasn't going to be doing any more acting during school or during season. So they were okay with that. And then my junior year and senior year was all history at that point.
Okay. Okay. So we already talked about it. You touched on it a little bit already. But what was the biggest sacrifice, that you made of, playing your sport, which I know you just, touched on it just a little bit.
Yeah, so it was a sacrifice to, obviously give up the credibility that I had with the acting business at that point. But I will tell you that with any sport, I felt that my biggest sacrifice was my time and what I was doing. I committed to the extent that I gave it everything I had. Every waking second, I felt like I was living, breathing, sleeping, whatever sport it was that I was playing. I used to get to school between 6:15, 6:30 every day. And then, we would hang out beforehand, or I would go into the gym. Not that it helped, but I would go into the gym and do my workout before school. And then I'd go to school, and then, we would play basketball at lunchtime. And then after school during fall, we would do football until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And then, I felt like I was coming home from that, and then literally just doing whatever homework I could get done before I fell asleep, and waking up and doing it all over again the next day. And that was football season. And then that bled over because we had relative success. It kind of overlapped with basketball season, especially my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I basically went from, doing nothing but football to, getting into the playoffs, things like that. And then all of a sudden just jumping right into basketball training and doing that all season. And then we had relative success there too. So we ended up, going into track season with an overlap. And I remember showing up to my first track meet as a freshman. And long story short, it was, I showed up there with zero training, zero practice time, and just got out and ran. And that was it. The coach said, just run. I had no idea how to get out of blocks. I had no idea, how to pass a baton, nothing. Just get out and run. That was it. And that was typical for me. But I felt like literally that's what I was doing all year round for, the next 3 years once my sophomore year started.
Awesome. So when you look back at it now, at all the sports you played, what sport do you think about now that wasn't your favorite, back then?
Baseball. I ain't gonna lie, man. My dad used to tell me when I played, because I played a lot as a kid. I played baseball starting from about 6 years old. I played t-ball, and I dug it. I to this day, I still kind of do the woulda, coulda, shoulda thing. But those guys they're so obviously they're freaking phenomenal athletes, and I don't know where it would have ever taken me. But guys that I played, that I went to high school with, ended up playing professional baseball. A guy with Jay Gibbons, for example, who played for the Orioles for years. He ended up going off to play professional baseball. A bunch of other guys that I knew in high school. We had a championship baseball team that won CIF in our division, and a lot of those guys ended up getting drafted, having their shot at it, and everything else. And I always looked at them as being the better athletes when it came to baseball. But baseball would be my one that I look back at and go, what happens? What could have happened? But that's about it.
Yeah, baseball is a pretty great sport. I mean, like one of my good friends, John Mitchell, he played baseball, and I was like, John, why you never want to track? And his thing is, track and baseball was at the same time, so he was great at baseball.
Yeah.
So he went there, and I was like, you look at it now, baseball, making that good money. So I mean, most people nowadays want to push their kids towards baseball.
It's the only sport where the contracts are guaranteed, man. Whether you play or you don't, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
So it's the only sport out there. It's crazy, but anyhow.
So that's why I think when you look at baseball, it's definitely one of those sports like, no, you wish you would have played. So, but for me, I don't think baseball would have been great for me. But like I said, watching my boy John play it, I mean, he was phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, as we go in, I'm gonna give a shout out to, once again. Word of Mouth Barbecue Grill, out there in South Tempe, owned by Demetrius. Definitely check it out again. Word of Mouth Barbecue Grill. I mean, it's definitely good food. Trust me, I like to eat, so I probably had almost everything on his menu. Definitely the atmosphere is great. Just talking to Demetrius, talking to his wife. They put their heart and soul into that place. So definitely, if you're feeling hungry, you in South Tempe, definitely check out Word of Mouth Grill. So we're going to get back to you now. So what did you feel? Now, why do you feel that speed is important? Now, for me, I know we can always differ. So why do you feel that speed when you played was important to you?
So speed, it seemed like, again, my whole life, I went through the whole, speed thing just because I felt like I was playing catch up. I was always chasing the older kids down. I was always feeling like I had to run faster than other kids. I had to ride my bike quicker. I had to, just play catch up is what I always felt like I was doing. And, speed for me was a necessity. It was also, it's weird to say this, but thinking about, the questions that I asked you in our last episode, and then, kind of going through this process myself, just thinking about how I'd answer some of these things. Speed is something that a lot of people look at and they don't realize it, but they almost crave it. Okay. We talk about people that, drive fast cars and, run track fast and go downhill, snowboarding quick. And it seemed like everything that I did, it evolved around going quick. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed, being fast. And, I always tell my kids, because they've asked me, they're like, Dad, what's your superpower? What would your superpower be if you could have it? And I said, I would love to travel by the speed of thought. And think about how quick that is, man. I want to travel by the speed of thought. I want to think it, be there and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the speed has always been important to me in that respect, because even if you're not talking about speed in sports or something physical, what about speed in thought, in the sense of if you're a great orator, or if we were in the middle of a presidential election right now. Let's talk about these guys having to think fast on their feet to answer a response or a question or something like that. And that's every day. That's everything that you're doing. Every interaction that you have with another human being involves some sort of speed. And that's why I think it was always important to me. I always appreciated it, always respected it. And when you see people out there that are just fast at whatever they do, I mean, heck, solving a Rubik's Cube, or doing the cup challenge or something, you look at those kids and you're just like, holy crap, that's amazing. And it's that whole meme that's going around right now. That's X Games mode. That's what it is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to watch these things happening, and I think that's why speed is important. I think that's why we as humans understand that when you're fast, you don't die. I think we just get that inherently. It's probably in our blood somewhere from ancient days out there being chased down by lions or something. So they always joke, if you ever get chased by a bear, you don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be faster than the slowest person.
Always.
So,
Always,
Always.
yes.
yeah, so that's why I think speed was important to me. I know my mind always races too, and I always thought that if I was given enough time, I could solve any problem. If I was given enough time, I could compete at any level, things like that. So it was always important to me.
Okay, okay. So tell me, how did you train? How did you train to get that speed to stay where you wanted it at? So how did you train your body, so you can maintain that?
Um, I will tell you that I think throughout high school it was different than when I got to college. College was much more structured. So let me start with high school. High school was what I like to call the art of the mimic. I would find the best athletes that I was playing with, and I would try to emulate whatever it was they were doing. So if I saw them run a route a specific way, I would try to do it as best I could that way. It was just it was repetition and trying to emulate those people. So if I was watching a kid, take a jump shot and he was really good at shooting, guess what? I would try to make my body do what his body was doing. So that was high school for me. I was really winging it, and I think that that's just unfortunately it's because the either my perception of what I was being coached like in high school was, hey, you're kind of here to just kind of wing it on your own. We're going to show you some general drills and let you do it. So I just took it as if I want to be like that person and I want to compete with that person, then I got to look like them. I got to shoot like them. I got to run like them. I got to act like them. That's how I felt. College was completely different. College was all about technique. I got up to Colorado State, and obviously it's a Division I college. I honestly, looking back at it, I tell people this all the time. I didn't realize I was getting into. I was arrogant. I was a kid that was 155 pounds, 165 pounds, soaking wet, and I walked onto that team, and I'm like, I got this. I could do this, right? And then I realized, oh crap, these guys are like competing in the top 25 every year. And oh yeah, by the way, you're competing with a bunch of dudes that just went off to the NFL. Remember that guy that hit you last year and you probably had a concussion for 3 weeks on scout team? That guy's sitting with the New York Giants right now. That kind of stuff, right? And that for me was completely different in terms of how I trained, because it was structured. They understood the anatomy of the human body. They understood how you get faster, what you do to get faster, what you do to run better routes, what you do to compete at a higher level. And I just sucked it up. I just enjoyed it. I took everything that I possibly could, best humanly could. And for me, it was just a huge learning opportunity and a huge opportunity for me to just make myself all that I could potentially be as an athlete.
Yeah, that's cool because what you were saying, just going in there arrogant. I think as coming out as an athlete and you're probably the top 5 or 10 athlete in your school, and you go off to a college, we normally carry that arrogance. I think for me, I think I had the same thing. It's like, no, you go to the next level and you're like, oh, I'm better than that next person here, and you go out and you think about it like, hey, that person that the stuff you were doing, that person can do it probably 10 times better than you. So for you
Yep.
to just go in there and just that suck it up like a sponge, no, that's great. No, I love to hear that.
Yeah, I had, I mean, my claim to fame with college was that I did walk on. I got a scholarship at a Division I school, right? And a lot of people don't do that. But that was not because I didn't work my butt off, and it wasn't because the coaches didn't believe in what I was doing. And I went up, and with that arrogance, my spring of semester of my senior year, my mom's like, "Hey, you want to go visit some colleges?" I'm like, "Sure." I said, "I want to go check out Colorado State because somebody told me about it." Great. Let's go check out Boulder. Awesome. Let's go check out Wyoming. They're all in the same area, right? Well, I get to Boulder, and it's one of those situations where they had won the national championship a few years before that, and there was a big chip on their shoulders. So 5'10" and a half, white guy, 165-pound, comes walking in saying, "Hey, we want to play with, wide receiver." They're like, "Yeah. Can we get the assistant to the assistant to the assistant coach in here, please, to take him on a tour?" And that's what it was like, right? And then I go up to Wyoming, same experience, because the year before that, at that time, I don't know if you guys remember a guy by the name of Yarborough. He was like the national wide receiver. He won, yeah. He had, at the time, he had the most amount of yards, ever receiving, most amount of catches ever receiving in NC2A history. And he had just graduated. So I come walking in again, 5'11" white guy. They're just like, assistant to the assistant to the assistants, maid, and then bring me the janitor for the maid, please. And they took me walking around, right? That's what it was like. That's what it felt like. And then I got to Colorado State, and it was completely different. I walk into the office. I'm giving them, remember VHS tapes? I had that VHS tape, and I walk in there with my highlights. And and the lady's sitting at the front desk, the football office. And I said, "Yeah, I just wanted to leave my tape with one of the coaches." And she's like, "Oh, hang on." And she goes toddling off, and she comes back. And she's like, "Oh, Coach Lubick will be with you in a minute." I had no idea who Coach Lubick was. Okay. Coach Sonny Lubick, right? He was the defensive coordinator for the Miami Hurricanes, the national championship. He, was a head coach of Montana State, ends up at Colorado State to take over behind Earl Bruce, right? And it was his first full season he was going into. And this dude's on his spring break, sitting in his office, and decides to come out and talk to this guy, right? So I spend the next 2.5 hours with him, he and my mom and him and my brother, sitting in his office, just BSing. And he says, "Let's look at your highlight video." We go through it. He says, "Look, I'll tell you what. You come out here and you bust your ass and you do what you say. You do what you can do. You contribute to the team." He goes, "I promise you, you'll have a scholarship." And I went, "Okay, that's all I needed. That's all I needed."
Chance.
So that's where my arrogance came in. So little did I know my freshman year that I would be walking on as a freshman wide receiver when my wide receiver coach was Urban Meyer. So, yeah, that was
one
fun.
of the greats.
One of the greats. I think a few people know Urban Meyer.
Yeah, a couple.
He was
people.
my freshman year. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I got a great story about him too, but I'll tell that later if we get to it.
We'll say that for the later episodes.
Okay, so we're gonna get into this next promotion where Mr. Leggett is gonna talk about the West Coast Turkey Bowl tournament once again.
Delam, before you go into that, I just want everybody to know out there that's listening. Look, we don't get any compensation from these people we're promoting. We're just helping them out. So if you have somebody that you want us to help out as well, let us know. If you got a favorite restaurant you want us to promote, you got an organization you want us to promote, a sports league or something, bring it to our attention. We'll be happy to do that. Send it to us in a DM on Facebook or something, and we'll definitely get the shout outs out there for them.
All right, so we got this great promo that I'll play right now, representing the Turkey Bowl. Once again, that's the West Coast Turkey Bowl. And as you know, we have nothing but talent out here in Arizona. So get your team together, join the Turkey Bowl, and go represent for the state of Arizona, the great state, I'll put it that way, the great state of Arizona. West Coast Turkey Bowl.
Awesome, awesome. So we're gonna finish up with Mr. Hoffman, right? Mr. Art Hoffman, right here at the end. So Art, so one thing you wish you have known when you begin your career that you know, if you can play back then, if one thing you wish you have known.
So I thought about this question, throughout the last couple of weeks that we've been prepping for all of us to kind of answer the stuff. And I will tell you that um, I don't think there was one thing that I wish I had known, but I wish somebody had told me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As a young kid, kind of going into a sport, doesn't matter what it is. I will tell you that don't let anybody tell you you can't do something. That's what I wish that somebody had told me back then. You get a lot more of that now than we did when we were in high school and growing up as kids. It's funny because with all the different movements that are out there right now around, ways that you should and shouldn't be talking to people and, you name it. I think a few of my coaches in high school might be in jail if they were coaching today. and
Oh yeah,
and me
yeah.
as a
Ain't that the truth?
kid, I mean, me as a kid at that time, I thought it was just what it was supposed to be like, right? I mean, I'm just like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. It's okay for the coach to grab some kid's helmet and not put on shoulder pads and knock heads with the, 4 or 5 kids on the team in defensive drills. It's fine. It's okay. Not a big deal. No, but yeah, that I think that was the biggest thing that I wish somebody had told me way back then, because I look back when I was a freshman in high school, and I remember we were all sitting around, and you guys remember what it was like two-a-days, and two-a-days nowadays don't seem like what we grew up with two-a-days, but that's just me being an old timer saying I walked up hill, but in snow both ways kind of thing. But I think two-a-days back then were really kind of three-a-days. We had practice in the morning. We had practice, around noon that was voluntary, quote unquote. And then we had practice, in the evening. That was our two-a-days. And they weren't just an hour and a half, 2 hour practices. They were 2.5 to 3 hours, maybe sometimes 3.5 hour practices, especially if the coaches felt like conditioning you longer. So, but I remember after one of our first ones, freshman year, we had one of our senior coaches, basically come down to talk to the freshmen. And I remember him looking around to everybody. He goes, all you guys look, tough guy gets in there and he's like, all you guys look left, look right. Look at all these kids around you, right? And he starts going into it. And he's like, I want you all to know, not one of you sitting here is going to play Division I football. And I went, bet me. And I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what college I was going to go to, but damn it, was I want to prove him wrong. That's all I can tell you. So interestingly enough, everybody on my freshman squad, we were the first team in Moore Park High School history to win a playoff game as a football team. And then we ended up going to the second round of the playoffs my senior year. We didn't end up winning the CIF championship or anything, but we set a lot of records that senior year, and we did a lot of great things, and we had a lot of guys go places and things like that. And if you guys are familiar with California football, I mean, it's highly competitive.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, we were in what was called Division 9. Division 1's like the best, right? We were Division 9, okay? And we were happy with that. Don't get us wrong. We were a small little farm town school. We dug it, but we were Division 9. We played some, really high quality teams over time, but we did some good things, and we had guys that went places, and that was our pride and joy. We were happy about that. We enjoyed it. So again, man, just if there's one thing that I could tell you that I wish I'd known when I started my career is don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something. Just go for it. If you think you can do it, put in the time, put in the effort, put in the work, and hit it. Just go get what you got to get. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, don't let somebody pump that negative energy into you, and that's the main thing. Keep that positive energy, keep that drive, and then, be around positive people as well.
Yeah. Well, too many times kids, they get verbally berated under different programs. They get told that they can't do something, or that they're horrible, that they screwed up, or whatever the case might be. And I will tell you right now, more people want to play for the coaches like I did. I wanted to play for Urban Meyer because you know why? I respected him. I enjoyed the fact that he told me I could do this. He made me feel like I could conquer the world. He was my biggest advocate, my biggest supporter when I first started playing in college. And then, when Coach Lubick said, hey, you come out here and bust your butt, I'll give you a scholarship. I went, game on, let's do it. Those are the people you would die for on the field. And those are the coaches you die for. And that's what you want to do as an athlete, and that's the whole purpose of it. So I think some of the greatest coaches that are out there are the ones that people endear themselves to, and they find that they're the best inspiration and their biggest advocate when it comes to whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, that you're definitely right about that, because if you have that great coach, he's definitely going to push you to that next level.
Yeah.
So all right, so you talked about that. So what is one of the biggest failures, of your sports career, and what did you learn from that?
Biggest failures of my sports
Great
career.
question.
Yeah. I thought about that, and I honestly can't tell you that I had one moment that I kind of went back to. There were several moments that I kind of went back to and felt, oh, that was it. That's why I didn't go to that next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then reality kicks in. I look in the mirror and go, that's why you didn't go to that next level. So, no, I will tell you, I think one of what could have been, and I'll give you a what could have been, because honestly, there was a lot of things that, could have ended my careers out there. So, but I think what could have ended my career was my freshman year when I went up to Colorado State. I was not the best student, but I was a good athlete. Okay. We talked about that in your episode, Marcus.
Yes.
I graduated high school with a 2.55 GPA. All right. So again, I was an athlete. I was not a student. I went off to college in my freshman year. In order for me to be able to be at Colorado State, I was on academic probation. And in order for me to stick around after my first semester, I had to get better than a 2.0. I got a 2.5 in high school, right? A little, my arrogance kicked in, but I had to get better than a 2.0, and I ended up with a 2.006 my freshman semester. First semester of my freshman year, 2.006. That was probably my biggest failure, because that was the only time in my life I've ever failed a class, and it was the only time in my life I really looked myself in the mirror and said, I'm not going to do this again. And I strapped up my boots from there and decided to apply myself. I graduated college with a 3.74 GPA and never looked back. And that was because I realized, again, I think at that point, that I wasn't going to that other level. So I need to enjoy the athlete part of it and be a student first, because that's what I'm going to need for the rest of my life. So that was what I would classify as my biggest failure. But at the same time, it wasn't as catastrophic as it could have been, because I could, for all I know, I could have, missed it, not been in school anymore, and who knows where I would have been.
Right.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. It's definitely, like we say, it's called student athlete. No, not athlete student. So, no, that's definitely a great story right there. So going back now, and talking about who was the three people who influenced you, that had a big part of your life in sports.
When it came to sports, I mean, my dad was up there, don't get me wrong, and I'll get back to him in just a second. I will tell you, it was that freshman football coach that told me I couldn't do it. He was an influence. He just didn't realize it. Does that make sense? I had a lot of great coaches in high school, and I could sit here and name them all off. But I would tell you, when I got to college, my biggest influencers in college were the coaches that I felt I could die for. I mentioned that earlier. Urban Meyer, and I'll come back to that story I told you earlier that I was going to tell you. So I went through my freshman semester. I wasn't allowed to dress with the football team, so I was basically a ball boy my freshman year, fall semester. That was the first year that Colorado State had won the WAC championship. They actually came down here to U of A and beat Desert Swarm. I don't know if you guys remember that game.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
Yeah. So we rioted in Fort Collins that night, just so you know. But that was the year that they came in, and they had they caused a fumble on their own 5-yard line or something like that. And one of our defensive ends, I think it was Brady Smith, was the guy that did it, but he ended up running it back for a touchdown, and we ended up beating U of A, who was preseason pick number 1, national champ, or preseason pick number 1. So anyway. But I was basically a ball boy that whole first semester, and I showed up to every wide receiver meeting. I showed up to every practice and ran around and just caught balls after practice with the the quarterbacks and stuff, and casually ran routes, as they like to call it, so they can throw some extra routes and whatnot. And Urban was the coach at the time. We got to get to know each other as people and as individuals. And he is every bit what you see. He is the exact same person. However, he is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay. Off the field, he's Dr. Jekyll. Nice, calm, relaxed. But on the field, Mr. Hyde can come out. And trust me, you don't want that to happen. So my story for Urban Meyer is this. It's spring training now. It's spring ball, right? And it's the first opportunity I get to go out there and actually compete. And again, I'm already feeling nervous as hell because just my stature, my size. I see all these guys. I mean, our offensive line at the time was average 6'5", 305. Okay. And I got the pictures to prove it. I look like a little kid compared to these guys, right? And I get out there. I have a pair of those offensive lineman shorts on that I've tied up so tight to fit around my little tiny waist that I look like I'm wearing a kilt running around out there because they go down to my shins. And I've got my shirt on that's 45 sizes too big, and I look like I'm wearing my big brother's clothes. And ironically, my arrogant brother decides he's going to walk on too, but he was a smoker at the time, and trust me, that didn't go very well. So I'm out there running around, right? And the first day of practice, and I'm just like, I got this, I could do this. And I start running routes and I start doing everything. I swear I dropped every single pass.
Wow.
I'm like, my nerves, I don't know what it was, man. I felt in my hindsight, in my mind's eye, I felt I dropped every single pass that was thrown to me. I screwed up every route. I missed every block I was supposed to make. I knew what the play was, but I did it wrong. I don't know what happened, right? My whole brain was just scrambled. And I'm walking off the field, and I remember it. I'm clear as day. I could tell you exactly what the grass smelled like, everything. I'm walking off the field dejected. I think this is it. I'm done. I'm going to walk in there, and there's going to be a pink slip in my locker that is temporary anyway that I'm sharing with two other guys, stuff like that, right? And all of a sudden behind me, I hear this, somebody trotting up past me, and I'm just like, oh, somebody's, don't say nothing to me. Don't say nothing to me. And all of a sudden I feel this hand on my shoulder, and then I look up this way, and it's Coach Meyer. And he's standing there, and he goes, son? I said, yeah. He goes, do you want to be a wide receiver here at Colorado State? I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, catch the effing ball. He goes, catch the ball. You'll be fine. You run great routes. You're fast. Just catch the effing ball. Okay? I said, yes, sir. And he goes trotting off. Right? He goes jogging off, and I'm like, I think I need a jog. And that was it. That was it for me. That was all I needed, was that one little thing to tell me that, hey, this person, whoever it is, that you got to do this. And years later, he left Colorado State after that season. Years later, when he was I think he was coaching at Utah at the time. It was his first year at Utah. He was back in Fort Collins because his family still lived there. And I ran into him as a senior, and we were in a downtown bar in Fort Collins, and I ran into him. And I'm like, oh, Coach Myers, what's up? And we start talking and whatnot. And he looks at me and he goes, remember what I told you when you were a freshman? I said, yeah. And he goes, see what I mean? I'm like, you son of a gun. It's crazy though. But guys like that, those are the guys that influence people. And I think every one of us as athletes understand exactly how that story relates to us. And there was somebody in their career, especially if you went on to whatever level, that influenced you in a very positive way. So I will tell you that, again, it was that freshman year coach. That was one of them, telling me I can't do something, and I fought like hell to prove him wrong. It was a guy like Coach Lubick who told me, hey, you come out here and bust your butt, you're going to get what you deserve. And then a guy like Coach Byers who, truly felt and made me feel as if I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's so awesome, because like you said, once you get the right coach in, and that coach that has your back, I think the sky's the limit for you to do anything out on any sports you play. So looking back, if you could change anything in your sports career, what would you change?
I'm going to take your response, Marcus, honestly. I wouldn't change anything. And the reality is that we all could go back and say, gosh, if I could do this, if I had done this, if I had caught that, if I had ran this way, if I find a time in our career that, something happened. But honestly, every single play, every single day defines who I am today. And I dig that. I love it. I love it because as I sit here and I coach my kids, and I told you this the last time in the last episode, that I'm a huge believer in failure. You have to fail in order to succeed. If you came out and succeeded at everything you did every single time, how boring would that be? You wouldn't get frustrated. You wouldn't get mad. There wouldn't be anybody or anything in this world that could better you in any way, shape, or form. I think that's honestly why failure is so important. You have to understand what failure is in order to appreciate what success is. And that's what a lot of young athletes don't realize. They get so frustrated because they fail. They get so frustrated because they're not the fastest, or they didn't get out of the blocks that one time, and they end up losing the race. And it ends up, deteriorating their whole world so much that they don't understand that if they just flip that and use that as a way to drive them, towards doing it better the next time, succeeding better the next time, that it would be a whole different experience, how to appreciate this much more. But I thank God every day that, the experiences that I've had in life. Failure is a part of success. And if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe that failure is a part of success, then you're looking at it the wrong way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I definitely feel you on that one, because there's a time, and I know DeLon knows this. We were running against CAC. We're at ASU. 4x1 team. I think like everybody got and ran a great leg. Our first leg got the blocks great. Our second leg ran a great leg. Our third leg, DeLon, ran a great leg. And for some reason that day, I wasn't on my job. And there was a cat named Percival Spencer. Yes, he's fast. And Art, I never in my mind thought I would get ran down. So I get the baton from DeLon,
Yeah.
and I'm out there, I'm moving. And when I told you, we said last week about that woo factor,
Yeah.
I was a part of that woo factor, and man, and I was hurt because for an instant, first time in my life, somebody actually ran me down. And no, for me, I was hurt because I thought I let three guys down. And for the way you just put it right now is how you have to you gotta learn how to fail to get better. And I think for that right there, that helped me finish that year off strong. But it definitely happens.
Yeah, if you haven't failed in life, then you haven't succeeded, in my opinion. We all didn't start walking and miraculously never fall on our face. That's not how it happened. Okay, we all started to try to crawl and we fell on our face. We started to try to walk and we fell on our face.
Mm-hmm.
We do that throughout life a thousand, if not tens of thousands of times, and that's part of sports too. You have to fail in order to really appreciate the successes that are out there. So going back and looking at all the successes that I've had, I mean, I was on teams that were, in the hunt for, national championships while I was sitting at Colorado State. And I say that, kind of arrogantly now, but I mean, we were top 10, top 25 just about every year that I played there. You don't appreciate it when you're there. You look back at it now and look at these kids that struggle to be on a program that maybe once every 10 or 15 years gets in the top 25. 4 out of the 5 years I was there, we were in the top 25. That was awesome to me. And looking back at it, I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I was still fighting for what it was that I did. So,
oh, that's cool. So now that if you could go back into the hot seat, be back in the seat I'm in, what question that I didn't ask you that you would ask yourself?
Yep, I got it. I knew what it was going to be. I kind of baited you on that one. The one question that I would ask myself in this situation is, as you were playing college football, for example, was wide receiver what you enjoyed doing the most, or was there something else? And the answer is there was something else. Okay. I was a blocking H-back, mind you. Now I'm going to name drop right now just because I feel like I can and I know these guys. My freshman year, I came off a scout team. I was on defensive scout team as a wide receiver, and we had a bunch of guys go down hurt that year. So that's how I ended up actually getting my shot as a wide receiver, is because these guys were getting hurt and they needed to fill in the space. Well, I happened to to be with a guy that had just come in as a true freshman by the name of Joey Porter. And I know you guys probably know who
Ooh.
Joey is.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
So Joey came in as a true freshman that year, straight out of Bakersfield High School, and he was, 185 pounds, and he was our recruit. Urban Meyer had recruited him as an H-back, right? And I was his backup. I was a blocking H-back. That was my job. I blocked, okay? And I was okay with that. I knew my role. I had my role on the team. I was happy with it. It got me on the field. Everything was good. Joey played the rest of that season as an H-back, and then he switched over to defensive end from there. And you guys all probably know what the rest is history. A couple Super Bowl rings in his pocket. Played for the Cardinals, played for the Steelers. And oh, yeah, by the way, on the other side of the ball with him was Clark Haggans. So those two bookends played at Colorado State all through those years. And then they went off to the Steelers. And then Clark came here to the Cardinals, and then Joey shortly joined him after that. Point being is that, I knew that I had a role on that team. And as going into my sophomore season, when I got the call that said, hey, we want you to come back, literally a week before school starts, they said, hey, we want you to come back. We want you to, be a wide receiver for us. So great. I show back up, and I wanted to just get on the field. I didn't care what it was that I did. So I remember about 2 weeks into the season, the coaches had said something, hey, if you want to get on the field, let us know. We need guys on special teams. I'm like, put me in, coach. I want to play special teams. I loved special teams. Loved special teams. So every year we would have a competition on special teams, and it was all done by points. So that depending on what you did on special teams, if you made a big sack, if you caused a fumble, if you ran a ball or ran a punt back you would get different points associated with that. So at the end of the season, they would have, running totals throughout the year. So you knew exactly where you stood. Again, my competitive nature, I wanted to be number one. I was never number one by myself, I will tell you that, but I was number one or number two every year. And my junior year, it was me and a guy by the name of John Howell. John Howell was our starting strong safety at the time. And he and I were the same year, and he and I both loved to just, we loved to pop heads. He loved to do it more than I did, but special teams was my thing, man. I loved it. I loved being on everything. And the only special teams that I was not on was PAT. I was the backup PAT holder, but I was not on PAT. I was on every other special team. I was the guy basically quarterbacking the punt team. I was also a bullet at one point in time. On defense, I was the linebacker coordinating the punt team, punt return. And you guys may or may not know this, but I'll let you know. Our special teams coach at the time was a guy by the name of Brian Schneider. Brian Schneider is the special teams coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and he has been under Pete Carroll for all these years. So awesome. Great dude. But he's who gave me my shot on special teams. And again, I just wanted to be on the field. I didn't care what it was I was doing. I came from high school where I didn't come off the field till halftime and off the field till the end of the game. And that was no joke. I was on everything in high school. And when I got to college and I wasn't even getting on the field, I was standing there waiting to get on, and I wanted to get on. Special teams was my way on, and that's how I did it.
Awesome.
So awesome. That's the one thing I would have asked myself. So
awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome, man. Art, I want to appreciate you for sharing that with us. Sharing your history, sharing your love of the sports you played, and for once, thanks again for being a co-host on here with me and Delon on Speed Killz. But I want to get to the last thing before we close out. Once again, I want to promote the West Coast Turkey Bowl Championships. Please, once again, get your teams in because spots are filling up very fast. Come out. Like I said, AZ come and rep because we have teams from New Hampshire, Colorado, LA. We have teams from Texas. They try to come out and get that money. So let's keep that money in AZ. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for taking their time out of their day to come and chill with us on Speed Killz. Before we close out, I'll let my two co-hosts get their shot out, and I'll see y'all once again.
Delon, take it, man. I'll take the last part. Go for it.
Yeah, as Marcus said, thank everyone for supporting us, and we have more to come. So tune in. We'll send alerts out to you to let you know what we have coming up, and we have some great people coming up in the next couple of days and weeks to be interviewed. And at the same time, let us know if you have any ideas that for the show. If you have any people that you would like to see on the show, um, send it to us. Let us know who you'd like to for us to interview, or have as a special guest on the show. We'll bring them on, and then as sports start to come around a little bit more, we're going to look at trying to get into the high schools and see what the high schools are doing. We're going to give love to the colleges and see what they're doing. So we're just going to give love to everybody that's playing sports right now and share that love with people.
Absolutely. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my story tonight. I mean, obviously, it is who I am. It's who made me who I am. These two gentlemen that are here with me too are also who made me who I am. We'll tell you we got some great people coming up that we've lined up so far. I'm gonna tell you a very odd combination of somebody we're gonna have here on in a couple of weeks. A professional golfer that played college basketball. Go figure on that one. A buddy of mine by the name of Jay Matthews, he's going to join us in a couple of weeks on one of our broadcasts. And I will tell you that, it's my promise. I know Delon and Marcus too. We all know people that went on to that next level, if you will, to get as high profile of athletes on here as we potentially can. So if you guys have people that you want us to go after, give me their name. I'll see if we can get them on the show, because there ain't nobody out there that scares me that we can't try to get on here and see if they're willing to tell us what they think about why speed kills, why it makes the things advantageous in whatever sport it might be. But again, appreciate everybody sharing their time with us. Appreciate you, brothers. I appreciate you guys having me on here and having me help you out.
Thank you.
And I look forward to drilling DeLon here over the weekend, because he's next on the docket. So we're gonna get on him, and we'll definitely make it worth everybody's time. So again, appreciate you all coming out tonight, and thanks again.
Yeah, like Art said, Mr. Leggett will be our next guest. And hopefully, once we get done with Mr. Leggett, we can start moving into our guests. But we definitely want to get our hosts, let them tell their stories. And till then, thanks again for showing us love. Keep everything coming, and we'll enjoy you. Y'all have a good night. Take care, and peace.
Peace.
Thanks, gang.